So welcome, Kathy Schadewald, to the show with Deliver Workforce Solutions. So we're just going to jump right in like we always do. So tell the audience a little bit about you. In a Reader's Digest way, of course.
Well, first of all, thank you for having me today.
Yes,
this is
of
a
course.
great opportunity and my first podcast.
Yay!
I'm excited.
We're your first.
So a little bit about me. When I was in high school, and you are thinking about what you want to do for a career, school isn't always the place that helps you to make that decision. So I always looked for opportunities, and an opportunity came up where I was able to take an apprenticeship at General Electric, and I graduated as a Class C Tool and Diemaker, and I was the first woman to do so in Schenectady. And then I went into teaching machine shop because, as you know, the economy is always ebbs and flows, and so I did not remain at GE. And the next thing I like to always do, I have 5 brothers, and all younger than me, and I always like to play school with them.
Mm-hmm.
If I had to play football or baseball or whatever with them, then they had to entertain me and play school. So I went into teaching, and because my craft was then machine shop, that's what I did. But as I said earlier, I was always looking for a new opportunity. So as soon as I felt like I mastered something, I moved on to something else. And so after teaching for 5 years, my passion was really developing programs and curriculum. And so I moved in that direction, as well as professional development. And ultimately that led to my final position before becoming an entrepreneur was working for a nonprofit, a national nonprofit, and developing new program areas. So we developed Aerospace, Informatics, and automated materials joining technology. And once that project was over, it was always like, what's next?
Right.
And so what's next was, how about I get out of doing school improvement and school program development and work on the side of business where I can help connect them to people who are being trained in the programs, because I did a lot of work-based learning activities while I was in that role as well. And so that's where I got the idea of going into becoming a workforce specialist. And I look at the systems for creating that seamless pipeline of employees to see where it's lacking. So what do you not have in place, or what do you have in place that needs to be improved upon, so that especially in today's day and age where the workforce shortage is critical, it's how can you improve what you are doing in your workplace so that you can find the people that you're looking for. And that might possibly mean grow your own. So have a work-based learning and internship program where they can come and learn and become a part, and then therefore they get to be introduced to you and how you run things, and you can see if they're a good fit for your organization as well. So that's where I got the idea.
Very interesting. I didn't know that you were in like more of the STEM area.
Mm-hmm.
Like when you think of teachers, you don't always think of like, you're like, oh, you do math, science, the whole gamut, right? But that's very interesting that you were in that very specific area.
I was in career and technical education for over 30 years.
Mm.
And so I helped to get those programs accredited nationally, and that is focusing on how do you teach those people the work skills that they need to go and be successful in their careers.
Yeah.
So that's why I can jump across industries and help with any, because the workforce systems are all very similar across industries. It's just the skill set is a little different.
So what was going on during your professional career that you're like, because you mentioned you're like, I'm done, I want to do something else. But like, why didn't you just jump into another job? Like, what made you decide to do your own thing?
Well, after I taught for 15 years, so I taught machine shop, and then I moved to helping with remediation on the computer, doing introduction to occupations, occupational math, occupational science, and then I went into curriculum as a curriculum supervisor and helping teachers with their delivery, their content and their delivery, and helping them, like I said, to get accredited so that students would be employable. And we had advisory committees that we would help. And then I branched out. It's like, what's next? And so then I was the executive CTE director for New York State and worked across the state, primarily with the big 5 cities, but we also had to deliver 7 regional conferences a year. So I had a team of people to help improve the teacher skills sets, and then this opportunity to work for the nonprofit and develop those other programs. It was like jumping to do that because it was like, oh, this is my favorite thing.
Yeah.
So we were doing remote working back then because I worked out of my home 2 weeks out of the month, and my team was scattered across the country, and then I went down to Atlanta 2 weeks out of the month and worked out of the office down there. So we were doing remote before Zoom was around.
Yeah, right. Before that was like a normal thing.
Yeah.
And then, so you started to dabble into the entrepreneurship, but was there anything that like caused you to stop wanting to work with a nonprofit? Was it like, did COVID cause things to change?
It was right before COVID.
Oh.
So I had made the decision to go my own way. The organization had gone through a major reorganizational structure, new president, new vice president, new everything. However, the culture was not always healthy.
Yeah.
And so I thought, well, what next? I finished this project, back out in schools doing school improvement all over the country. What next? And so I decided, well, I'm not ready to retire. I still have a long ways to go, so I want to work on doing my own business.
And how, because I remember I met you, it was like COVID time.
Yeah.
And you had just baby steps, just barely started your company. So compared to now, so it's crazy that it's been, almost 3 years, right, since your company has started. So what has been, the emotional journey for you that you've been on with your business? Like, you started, you're like, oh my God, oh, this is really happening. And now you're like, it's okay. And then we got to do these other things. And it sounds to me, you've mentioned multiple times, and this is probably why entrepreneurship is better, is because you're constantly hungry.
Yeah. Like,
you're like, I got to do this next thing. I've accomplished this. I've, got this new skill set. Well, now what's next? Has this job, in your own business, has that allowed you to do that?
Oh, absolutely. As many business owners, when they get to the point where they're going to start their own business, they know their craft, but they don't know some of the other things that are necessary. And one of the things that I have loved about this is all the marketing things that all of you guys have helped me learn along the way. So, writing blogs and doing the email marketing, which was like, I gotta get this one. Can't have to do this. But being on LinkedIn, that was the first thing I tackled, was updating my LinkedIn profile from one of the guests that you had in Ripple Effects, and I took her tips and I implemented them. I've had the opportunity to bring on interns, and especially during COVID when they were not, the big businesses couldn't bring them in because they had shut down or laid off people, and in either instance, they weren't open for interns. So the spring semester, I had 7 interns working for my company, and I was like, what can I have them helping me with? Well, let me see. And, my other marketing friend, I said, well, you're going to coach me. How about coaching my team of interns? And so we created projects. We created, the website, what we needed to be done on the website, which the content was there, but it wasn't SEO optimized. And I didn't like the CRM system that we had selected, so then I switched to the Insight Path
Mm-hmm.
CRM. And so I had a team working on that, and then also on my social media. And they set up my Facebook and Instagram, and they worked on creating the posts
Mm-hmm.
to go on there. So I was just learning right alongside of them, and today it continues with, doing. I just helped develop a new service called the Recruitment Marketing Service,
Okay.
where we are offering it to businesses where they can go through the process to define what strategies would be most beneficial to their business. Um, I also helped another person. We developed a um, service for video marketing, recruitment marketing,
Mm-hmm.
which is not done a lot.
Yeah.
And so we're launching that with a client right now as well. So in collaboration with these other businesses, I've been able to, actually I learned this through my blogs, the research on my blogs. And it was like, oh, this is really good, this is a really good results. We need to be doing this. Why aren't we doing this? Oh, tap somebody on the shoulder. Let's work on this. Let's create this. And so I've created these new services out of that.
That's awesome.
So I love to learn new things. So I'm not ready to stop. I enjoy it.
Well, your clients only benefit from that. How have you seen so obviously your business has transitioned pretty significantly from when you started with your focus and to where you're at now. So what do you think the next 5, 10, 15 years will look like in how you're operating as a business? So, the solutions that you provide, is that still going to look the same? Do you think that you guys are finding this other area that is just not addressed enough?
When I first made the decision to start this business, my chiropractor had said, oh, you got to come visit our networking group. And I said, well, I need to get my business started first. So I created a model to focus on, and it really is the employee cycle, life cycle. So I think I'm still in line with that, but every day there's new strategies that are identified that can help within those kind of 6 buckets, I call it. And so these strategies all fit within that. So I'm still in line with the original.
I mean, who cares if you changed it, right? It's your business, no one else's, if you find the need, right? And you're fulfilling that need.
Yeah.
And fulfilling your own need for hunger and change, and you like change.
I do.
Not everybody likes change. I think that is definitely not something that I hear a lot in here, that people like change. I think as an entrepreneur, you have to embrace it, obviously. But it's interesting to hear, you're like, oh, give it to me. I'll totally change it. I'll totally make it better.
Yeah, that's definitely. Right now I'm working on an agile workforce model that I found. And it's like, okay, I need to master this. This is so good for businesses to use. So, yeah.
That's awesome. Well, I mean, I think you're only going to put yourself in a very, unique, resourceful position, right, for businesses, because, originally I think you were more in the really focused in the hiring and HR and that particular area, right? But now you've niched out even farther, and I think that's only going to help you, because not everyone's going to do that. They're going to be like, oh, I'm surface level over here, but you're like, no, I'm very specific over here. I would enhance those other people.
Yeah, and it's become even a system the way I go about doing it, because it still is. I was looking for a tool, a data tool, and I found the Culture Talk that would give me data to support the strategic planning that I was doing with businesses.
Yeah.
So now I have every client does that. Either they do the individual or the organizational tool, and then we validate that, and I'm able to then inform their vision, mission, core values. It's kind of clean up the house, clean up the inside. Because, if you're Google, everybody knows who you are.
Right.
But if you're a small business, people don't know who you are.
Right.
So how do you build that credibility so that people want to come and work for you? And then I take it, with those 6 buckets, it's like, oh, what else do you need? And I actually do a needs assessment to see where their gaps are, so that when I give them a proposal, it's focused on what can help that, what can target the gap the most,
Mm-hmm.
give them the biggest return on investment.
Very interesting. Have you seen, so you've been working with some of the same clients, I would assume, for the last couple of years, or has it changed?
It's changed, yeah. And some of the projects have gotten bigger. But I've worked on, I had a mortgage company. The guy lost his two partners, and he was restructuring, creating his own business. So I helped him create all the positions for that. And I've worked with a couple smaller, like food service kind of businesses, a coffee shop that had opened up a second site, and what do you call it, smoothies and salads
Mm-hmm.
for they're moving towards franchising.
Mm-hmm.
So they have like 5 or 6 sites. So I worked with them. Locally, I have an industrial cleaning company. And right now I have a manufacturing company in Saratoga, and a health assisted living out in Syracuse. And people have started contacting me from other countries.
Oh, wow.
So I'm working with a company in India right now, an engineering firm. So, and they have clients over here, and we're looking at how to make that a collaboration for both parties.
Very interesting.
Yeah,
Very
so
cool.
a lot of different
Yeah.
kind,
Well, it keeps your
fun.
keeps you going, right?
Yeah.
So where do you see your entrepreneur journey, like, where do you see that going? Do you feel like you're going to continue to expand your business to the point where, like, you hire somebody, you have, like, a firm, or are you going to eventually phase out when you decide to officially, like, step down? Do you think you're going to dabble into anything else? Because I feel like you're a dabbler. You're like, once I've accomplished this thing, because that's the thing, like, what you figure out everything you can about this particular industry, right? And if you end up
Yeah.
hiring people, I feel like you're gonna get bored.
Yeah, well, I always feel like in order to, before I can go on to the next opportunity, I have to master the one
Yep.
that I'm in. So, but then I've walked the walk. So I know what needs to be done in that particular area, so that I can help mentor the person that's going to be in that, whatever that role is, to do. So I will do the same. I've identified that as my kind of my road.
Yep.
And so I'll do the same thing, and I want to scale up
Mhm.
and get rid of the some of the pieces that I don't care to do, or sometimes it becomes something I don't care to do when it's I'm doing it over and over again. It becomes repetitious, and it's like, okay, I can pass this on now. I've done enough of these job descriptions, or
Right. You
I'll
can
pass
delegate
this
it out now.
on. Yeah,
That's the beauty of owning a business, when you can delegate.
yeah.
Anything else you would want to get into?
I think there's enough in this one to keep me busy for a while, and then and my goal is to sell it.
Okay.
Once I've gotten to a
Certain point.
good place, then sell it.
Awesome.
Use it as an this was an investment
Right.
to build.
I mean, that's a business, right? It's
Yeah.
another way to invest your time, your effort, your money, your emotions,
Yes.
your mental health for future you.
Yeah, exactly.
How have you felt about your journey, like going into this path? I mean, did you ever think that you would ever own a business?
I did not until the latter part of 2019, and I was at that. I'd finished those programs that I talked about, and I'm back out on the road doing school improvement, and then I started thinking, what next? I've done this before.
Yeah.
So what next? And then I was like, I think I want to start something on my own, and that I was allotted the opportunity to do that right in the beginning of 2020. And then, was it, March, everything shut down. And I was like, what?
Yeah. Good timing.
Yeah. So, and I actually launched in April, so right during COVID.
Right.
And that was around the time I met you.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Very interesting.
It was an interesting time, but the benefit of it was we were shut down, and that gave us time to like really develop a business.
Yeah. Right.
And I had uh, one of the first things I did, I asked a friend, I know I need to have a business plan.
Mm-hmm.
And she was an accountant for the state and had retired, and had helped her daughter start her own business. So I was like, so what tips do you have for me? And she said, go to SCORE and get a mentor. And I have to say, that was the best advice I had gotten. And I had that mentor for over a year. But,
oh, nice.
But they really, SCORE really helped with developing that business plan. And that really set the foundation for my business.
Right, right. And it gave you the confidence, too.
Yeah.
To start your business. What other things did you learn that you would advise to someone else? So if you were the mentor now, right? Someone heard that you had started a business, you've been operating for 3+ years now. What other advice would you give them?
Well, I would tell them that that's the best thing to do is get somebody who can mentor you, because they'll guide you in the process to making sure that you have all your pieces in place before you, head in the wrong direction and waste a lot of time and money. So that's the first thing.
Yeah. And
then
join SCORE.
And then networking. Once you start getting out there, I think that's the next biggest piece is the networking, because who knows who you are. I had a lot of contacts within the education field, but I didn't have any in the business realm. So building that was critical to, meeting people and meeting the ideal clients that I needed to access.
Yeah. How have you felt about dealing with the unknown? So obviously, I feel like you crave that. I feel like you're one of those people that are like, give it to me. I want the unknowns because I like it. But that's not a typical trait, I would say, in a business owner. They don't like it, but they know how to somewhat deal with it. I mean, what would you say to somebody about that? Like, how are you dealing with the unknown?
Like you said, I'm comfortable with the unknown. So
how do we bottle this up and hand this out to others?
I know people don't like change, but I have found that like the more I learn, from people, and plus I was I went to school forever too, because I just love to learn, and I just find the more you learn, the more you don't know.
Yeah.
And so I just always have to, I have to have enough things to learn.
So you feel like you can take the unknowns with you, like, oh, I just need to learn more about whatever that thing is that I can't deal with right now.
Yeah. Or, and especially through the networking.
Yeah.
The networking, there's so many people out there that, at least in this area, that have been so helpful. Right. And last week, for example, my client had a question. It was an HR question. I am not certified in HR. I'm certified in leadership.
Yeah.
So, but I'm looking at the employee life cycle from that perspective. So if you have a legal HR question, I don't know the answer.
Right.
But
I
someone who does. Know someone who does. And I went to that person and I said, hey, here's the scenario. And, she jumped right on the phone, answered my question, and then the client had like an additional question. He's like, do you think I could? I'm like, yes, we collaborate. So yes, here, let me introduce you to her.
Right.
And he got his answers to his question. It had to do with, laying off or new job titles and stuff like that. And I wouldn't want to deliver the wrong information.
Right, right. I think that's a good point though about the unknown, because I have such a hard time with that. But prepping someone who's going into business on their own and saying, listen, as long as you have a network of people behind you, the unknowns are always going to happen, but how you react to them is going to essentially make or break how you move forward.
Right.
So if you have people that can either figure it out for you or can help you figure it out, it's less of this dubious task, right? It doesn't seem as, this monster that's kind of over your back that's making it very challenging. It's kind of like, well, I have to deal with this today, but I have so-and-so to call to kind of help me figure that out.
The reciprocal is true too. Like I hope
Yeah.
people will call me when they have issues that they're struggling with, and
Right.
so I do have my go-to people. It's like, oh, I gotta share this with you. Or,
Yeah.
so it's fun. I enjoy it.
That's awesome. I think that's the best thing that you could have when you own a business, right? Is that because if you didn't enjoy it, I don't think you'd be here.
No.
Like I wouldn't be talking about this right now.
Yeah.
So picture yourself like you've sold your business. You've hit whatever retirement vision that could look like for you. What is the legacy that you want to leave behind?
So I want to know that I made a difference
Mm-hmm.
to help others, and and that has been true since the time I went into teaching and helping students to learn the different careers, to now where I bring a lot of experience to the table, and I can listen to people and help them, and so that's the legacy I want to leave, is that I was able to do the best I could with that.
And everyone said that she did it well.
Well, some things well, some of it was a learning curve.
So as we conclude here, so I asked you like what advice you would give, and you gave like a couple things. I want to hear like what would you tell someone not to do? So if they were going into business, like you're like maybe you experienced it yourself and you're like, why did I do that? That was awful. What is that one thing that you would be like, don't do this?
Well, one of the things that I do that I would recommend so you don't get into that predicament,
Mm-hmm.
is I research everything. I always have to weigh the options.
Yeah.
One of the biggest struggles, I think, was there are so many programs out there, and you're trying to get all your systems integrated,
Mm-hmm.
and there isn't one system that does everything.
Right.
So whether you're picking the CRM, whether you're picking the website, who's going to host your website, who's going to help you build the website, or who's going to build it for you, it was all those pieces that sometimes I was like, oh, this is frustrating.
Mm.
'Cause I don't know. Should I use this system? We started out with Zoho for a CRM system, which I did not find user-friendly. It was cumbersome. But then what do you use? So I think if someone can sit down and help you to make sure that you're making the best decisions you can in the things that you have to invest in.
Yeah.
So that you're not wasting a whole lot of money.
Yeah. I think that's the hardest part, right? Like it's almost like you have to trip a little bit and fall on your face before, because you might have started with a CRM that worked at the time, and then as your business changed, you learned new things, and you said, well, this CRM doesn't do this thing that I need it to do, so I have to find one that does.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's definitely that's a good one. I think research is all relative also.
Well, that's true. So you have to, know your sources and know that if it's a company that's putting it out, it's going to have a bias.
Yeah.
So you better, research several of them, but also get into the studies. There's studies that have said what works best.
Mm-hmm. Based on the industry and what somebody's doing. Well, I think going back to your original piece of advice and finding someone to help you, right?
Yeah.
So it could be in the same industry or completely different industry, but if someone already has had that experience, they can say, well, here's what I use, here's the benefits, here's how it helped me. Okay, let's figure out what exactly you're going to use that same tool for. And if the one I'm using is going to work for you, okay, if not, here are some other recommendations that maybe that person's already done the research on. Because I think that's the biggest thing, you just don't know where to start.
Right.
A lot of times. You need all these things, but you're like, I'm just going to pick one because I don't want to do this anymore. It's a waste of time.
And the other thing is you have to recognize what you can't do.
Yeah.
So when it came to the website, for example, I knew I could do the content.
Yeah.
But I could not configure it. I'd need to go back to school and learn a little more on that end of things.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I know how to navigate in it, but not to put it all together.
Yeah, right.
So you need to figure out who's going to do that for you.
Right. I think knowing your limitations is helpful, but that's hard for an entrepreneur, right?
Yeah.
We're very like, I'll figure it out. I'll become, completely in the know about that one thing because that's what I've always done, right? And, being able to step back and say, is this a good use of my time? There's got to be someone else who can do it better, faster, probably cheaper than, if you were to sit down and do it. Definitely.
Yeah. There was something else I was going to say. The budget's important.
There's a lot of stuff. There's always something.
There's always a ton of stuff. So.
Is there anything else that you wanted to add before we end our show today?
Oh, I know what the point I was going to make is be ready to work hard.
Yeah.
Because running your own business isn't a 9-to-5 job.
Right. Yeah, don't go into entrepreneurship if you think you're going to have 9 to 5. Maybe eventually.
Yeah.
But initially, no. You're going to be working long hours. You're going to be making sacrifices. And until you have that team, until you've delegated things out, you have people that can run things as you've envisioned, you're going to be there.
Yeah.
That's how it is.
Yeah.
I think that's a good note to end our show today. So thank you, Kathy, so much for coming on. I hope this was a good experience for your first podcast.
It was a lot of fun. I enjoyed it.
Well, hopefully you'll get really good at podcasts and then you can have your own podcast.
You never know.
It
might be the next thing.
Exactly. That'll fulfill your need for new things.
I know. All right. Thank you.
You're welcome, Kathy.